Well, look who just waltzed right into my podcast. If you're here, it's not an accident. This is the Look Up Podcast. It's a place where we discuss how to stay connected and looking up rather than living in the monotony and anxiety of the brain, looking down. We're going to dive into deep emotional healing, spiritual wisdom and experiences, and above all, how to reconnect and stay connected to God, nature, each other, and ourselves. Welcome to the Look Up Podcast. I'm your host, Harmony Sunshine. Hello, podcast listeners. Today I want to talk about self-care for depression and anxiety. I've been waiting to get into a more positive headspace. I've been wanting to post on this for a while, but I've been really depressed and anxious. So I've been waiting to get out of that and sometimes I want to validate this before I go into holistic care for depression and anxiety. Sometimes the depression and anxiety is so bad that you feel powerless to do the things that are going to help. The things that I'm going to talk about, they are so helpful for depression and anxiety, but I do want to validate that sometimes I honestly feel I feel powerless to do them. I feel so weighed down by the heavy darkness. And I know other people feel that way too. So in no way, shape, or form am I saying that the list that I'm about to read off is it's the end all be all for it's not the cure or whatever. These are things that have really, really helped me. And I noticed that when I do these things, it really lifts a lot of that weight off. It's just sometimes difficult to get myself to actually begin the task or whatever it is. Also, before I get into it, I wanted to say that it kind of varies. The list is not super long, but sometimes this one thing will work, and then the next, maybe the next day it's a different thing on the list that's going to be better for me. But yeah, so just eat the fruit, spit out the seeds, as I say. Whatever resonates with you, you can take, and whatever doesn't, you can just ignore. So yeah, let's get into it. And let me open up my notes. Okay. So the first thing on my list is sweating. I cannot tell you how much sweating helps me. Specifically working out, the exercise, the endorphins, all of that good stuff. It's specifically, I'll hit on exercise for a minute. When I exercise, I like to play with my imagination and get a really good playlist going. I really prefer, most of the music I work out to is reggaeton, Latin cardio music and stuff, Latino hip hop, whatever. But I really play with my imagination and just try to picture myself in the ideal scenario. Picturing movement really helps me. I imagine myself dancing or running on water or swimming or literally running on a really beautiful path. Something like that. That really helps me. My imagination can come up with the most horrible things to make me feel, worse. So why not try to use the tool of my imagination to make me feel better? It's when you're working out, your brain is kind of, I don't know, for me, I feel I need to find a place to put it. So that way, it kind of just quiets my mind from thinking anything else. And it helps me to zone out enough to I don't know, to really enjoy the workout more and not be so focused on, I don't know, working out can be stressful sometimes. But yeah, but also with sweating, there's other ways that we can sweat. Obviously sex, which is another way of like getting those endorphins. But that honestly, sex is not on the list. If I'm being honest, it's not on my list. Sweating in the sun is an amazing way to sweat. And sunlight is actually the second thing on my list. Sunlight and being outside in general are so freaking healing. So if you can get like the sweating, the exercise, the sunlight, the outdoors, like all that stuff in like one fell swoop, like that's so amazing. Like combining exercise with nature is just so genuinely healing for me. I would say like these are at the top of my list because they really are at the top of my list. This podcast is all about getting out of your head and getting, into like true reality, right? So like nothing helps me do that more than literally looking up at the sky, getting outside, and like exercise too, like I said, helps get me out of my head. And the sun literally has like healing qualities to it. I want to do a whole podcast on the sun because I love the sun. But it exists, and like we exist because it exists. Like we literally could not exist without the sun. And it's just such a beautiful gift, which I think I literally already said this in my first episode, but I'm telling you, if you're feeling like you want to die, please go outside. If you are able to get out of the funk enough to put your shoes and your jacket on if it's winter and go outside and literally just walk around the block or walk 2 blocks, like it will get you out of your head enough usually to like stop that loop track in your mind. And feeling the wind, seeing the trees, like all of these amazing, beautiful things, like being in our natural state of nature instead of like, sometimes when I'm inside, it's just very overwhelming because everything that's around me, I guess if you have plants in your house, it might be different. Everything around me is man-made and everything around me is, synthetic for the most part, right? And I get really sucked in to like watching TV, just like numbing myself. So watching a lot of TV, there's like things that I like to do, but then I'll way overdo it and I feel powerless to do the right, like moderate amount. Like I way overdo it. So it's like I'll way over watch TV. I'll way overeat. Like I'll find a food that I like, but then I just way overdo it. And then I'll like way over stay in bed. And it's like, it gets me so depressed. But yeah, so getting outside and like being in nature where everything is, honestly, it's God's form. It's like the most natural form of healing, I feel like. That exercise in nature, especially if they can be combined. Another thing on my list is nurturing yourself. This is a hard one because this is hard. It's hard to learn how to nurture yourself, first of all. For me personally, and I feel like a lot of people can relate to this, I always outsourced my nurturing to a boyfriend or my mom or my friends or my sisters. Like, I always wanted somebody else to make me feel better. And like literally if you watch TV or you literally just listen to people at your job talk or like, I don't know, just literally society, like we've so normalized that. It's like, just make me feel better. And it's like, no, Holmes. Like we're actually not designed for that. We're outsourcing all of our pain, all of the nurturing that we're supposed to be giving ourselves. And we're like forcing other people to do it for us. And so it can be really hard when you, sorry if my futon is creaking. It can be really hard when you realize that, you want to start nurturing yourself and you haven't been, because it's like you kind of get to this point where it's like, God, I'm sick of nurturing myself. I want to go back to what I was doing before. I want other people to take care of me again, because like that's what we've done our whole lives, like a lot of us. So when you make the switch to nurturing yourself, it's so healing, but it can get heavy. But like when you're feeling depressed, if you can get yourself out of the funk enough to say, what do you need? Ask your heart. Look at yourself in the mirror. See if you can figure out what's triggering you. And sometimes that's something really tiny. I totally get it. And sometimes it is really hard to know, like, depression can really just hit out of nowhere. But even if it's not something that triggered you in the moment, maybe it's just something that wants to come up, that needs to be dealt with. And looking at yourself in the mirror or putting your hand on your heart and like really asking yourself, what's wrong? What do you need? I'm here for you. I'm here with you. I'm not going anywhere. I'm going to take good care of you now. I remember that was like the first time that I was like really nurturing to myself. I was like coming out of an abusive relationship, maybe like, 5 years ago. And I had a couple of friends like tell me they didn't want to be my friend anymore. Around the exact same time, I was like kicked out of the church I was in, the church program, whatever, all this stuff. I remember I was like sitting down in front of my mirror about to do my makeup, and I just started looking at myself and I just started sobbing. And like the only thing that I could get out was just me staring at my reflection saying, I'm going to take good care of you now. I'm going to take good care of you now. Like over and over. And like I'm crying, and then like my inner self is crying. Like, but that's the thing is we live in a society that teaches us that we're not in control of what happened, or like we're not in charge of taking care of ourselves. Like that's what friends are for. That's what your boyfriend is for. That's what your husband is for. Some people, even their kids, they expect their kids to make them feel better. But yeah, like, so this one, the nurturing yourself, it is, a bit like more difficult. And I would say when you're in the deepest, like heaviest depression states, it's not the easiest. But if you can ask yourself what you need and get present with your heart and look at yourself in the mirror and really connect, it really, really does help. It can be intense, but it is really helpful. So on the flip side of this, I know I just said don't outsource your pain, but it does help to talk to somebody sometimes. Whether that's a therapist, or if it's a spiritual mother or father in your life, a friend that you look up to, sometimes it just helps to vocalize things. And I think there's a difference between vocalizing something and then going on and on repetitively about the same problem. But like sometimes when we feel so depressed, it's like, I don't know, it can feel anxiety too. It can feel so suffocating. And where do you feel suffocation usually, right? Like in your throat, like your neck. And so it's like really good to actually speak, because you're like unblocking that heaviness from your throat, which is really amazing. And a lot of times it's really nice to have a second opinion, because we can't always see things as clearly when we're so close, I have a friend, Brandy Pinkerton, shout out if you're listening. It's called reframing. She's always able to reframe the situation for me. I don't even know if she knows that she does this, but like, she always reframes things to put me in the best possible light. And I'm like, I am not worthy. I am not worthy of your love. Like, why do you love me? Why do you see me this way, But again, sorry for the creaking. But yeah, so it's like, I do think it's important to be a little intentional about who you talk to, because yeah, that's all I'm going to say about that. And whatever the spirit needs to reveal to you about that sentence, it can. But yeah, just be intentional about who you share with. But also we can learn from everybody, so there's two sides to that as well. Another thing is being honest with how you're feeling. And this kind of ties into the nurturing yourself. But like sometimes sometimes in these situations, it's like easier to numb and to distract instead of like being really honest with how you're feeling. Also, when we numb, it's like it makes it very hard to like differentiate the feelings. And same like with like a depressive, like, I don't want to say a state, but like, yeah, I guess like a depressive state, it's like it can be hard to know what we're feeling. Like I could be in a depressive state because I'm so angry. I could be in a depressive state because I felt humiliated, which honestly, humiliation, I don't know what it is. Like that is I mean, I'm sure no one likes to be humiliated, but I feel like that's a huge trigger for me. Rejection. Oh my God. If I feel rejected, if someone says no to me, like it could be, I could not even think I care. And then it just hits. So just being really honest with how you're feeling. And honestly, even if you can just identify the feeling and you feel too heavy to unpack it all in that moment, that's okay. At least you discovered what the feeling was and you can come back to it when you're feeling stronger, when you're not feeling so bogged down, when you're not feeling so trapped inside of the deep darkness that is depression and the choking that is anxiety, you know? Another thing is eating and drinking as an act of kindness to your body. So, like I said a little bit earlier, when I'm feeling really deep in it, I want to numb and I eat a lot. And like I can tell that I'm full. This is kind of exposing, but it's a little embarrassing, but I'm sure someone that's listening can relate. But it's like I just eat. Like maybe I like the food and it's really good, or maybe it's just okay, but I just eat it, and then I can feel that I'm getting full and I just keep eating. And then I can feel that I am full and then I keep eating because I can still feel my feelings. I can still feel the depression. I can still feel the anxiety. So then I just keep eating. And then I can feel that I'm really, really full. And then maybe I'll eat even more. It's honestly like, I don't know. It's like kind of, it's sad to just like hear me say that out loud. Yeah, because it's like such an act of hate to my body. It's just not taking care of my body. Same with drinking or any kind of drug that you use where you're just not taking care of your body. I'm not saying you can't drink, but like, you know, when you have a couple drinks and you feel good and then you are still kind of thinking about that thing you don't want to think, or you're still feeling sad, or you're still feeling anxious and depressed. So you have another drink. And you still feel it. So you have another drink. And you know that you're drunk and you know you shouldn't have another drink, but then you have another drink. It's weird because it's one of those things where it's like, it distracts us. It literally is the numbing. It literally numbs us enough to not feel so depressed, so anxious, so sad, so angry, so rejected, so unpeaceful. But it's like, I don't know. You like the food thing. It's like you're going to feel so stuffed that it like hurts, you know, and then you're going to like get down on yourself for doing that to yourself and like eating that much, or like, I don't know. And then with drinking, it's like you're probably going to be hungover. You're going to like, honestly, when I'm hungover, I feel super depressed because it's, I don't know, it just takes a lot out of you. And so it's like, it's not, with that, it's like a preventative thing. You know, eating and drinking in alignment with your body is like a preventative thing for like causing you to have less anxiety like the next day. You know what I'm saying? Another thing is emotional release tools. So this kind of ties in with nurturing yourself, but like, there's a lot of ways that we can release emotion. And honestly, I feel like I guess I've said depression a lot. I've been depressed more than I've been anxious apparently lately. But when I'm depressed or anxious, honestly, I have been trying to use like emotional release tools, and it honestly helps so much. So if I have the opportunity to cry, I will cry, like 100% for sure. That's an emotional release tool. But like screaming into a pillow, dancing and like allowing your body to like, I feel like I've talked about this before, but like dancing or just like moving your body at all, and like wherever you're feeling tension in your body, like allowing it to like break it up. Like whether you need to stomp or like fling your arms wide open or like swing around, like whatever it is, like it's going to feel and sound silly, but you have like tension, like stuck. You have emotion, you have trauma like trapped in your body, and it's like we need to like break it up, you know? Sometimes just doing like really big sighs like helps break the emotion up. Like that's an emotional release tool. Sometimes making yourself laugh. Like we used to do this all the time at BSSD. Like we would always like say, oh, I just laugh at that. And then we'd all just start laughing. And it was fake at first, but like it always turned into a real laugh. And so like that was really beautiful too. It's just like allowing that pent up emotion that's inside of you to be broken up and therefore released. Okay, so the last thing I have on my list, I'm not sure if it'll be the last thing I talk about because sometimes things just come to me. This is the first time I've had a list actually when I did a podcast, so that's interesting. But the last thing on my list is for when you just simply cannot come out of it and you need to lay down and you need to rest and you need to just be in it, which this happens. You can't always... There's nights or sometimes mornings where it's like, I just simply cannot break out of it. It's good to have, side note, it's good to have somebody that you can trust that's like on call when you get in these spaces that could maybe come over and like help you get out of bed or like scratch your head while you lay in bed or, you know, something like that. Like I'm not going to get into that, but yes, that's a really good thing to have. But if you don't have that, or that's not available, or you just don't feel comfortable and you feel like you need to be alone and just be in the depression, I do recommend, first of all, drink lots of water, make sure that, you know, you eat something but the main tip for this is have a lot of blankets and pillows because it is so freaking comforting. I know this sounds like a really silly tip, but like when I'm super depressed, I'll just pile pillows up like on both. What I've been doing is like piling pillows on one side of me and then having like a big warm fuzzy blanket on the other side. And then I have blankets on top of me. And lately Cleopatra has been like coming and laying on my chest and purring. It's been so cute. She's been sleeping on me like every night, not like all night, you know, because cats. But yeah, honestly, the pillows and blankets really help. And this might sound even sillier because I'm assuming that pretty much everyone that listens to this is an adult, but having a stuffed animal or like a special pillow or even like a special specific blanket or something, or I mean, if you have a pet, dogs like to be cuddled, I know. Cats are hit or miss. But like something that you can physically hold. I don't know what it is, but I've been seeing so much more of like adults having stuffed animals lately. Maybe I'm just hanging out with a bunch of freaks, but I don't know why it's not more normalized. Like I know how it looks, okay, to have a stuffed animal on your bed, but like honestly, who cares? How it looks, quote unquote, to who? Who's coming in your house that's going to judge you? If they're in your house, like, shoot, you already let them in that far. Like, you might as well let them in on the freaking depression stuffed animal. God. I'm serious, though. Like, this is a little vulnerable, but I've had this stuffed animal frog since I was 15. My dad is not a big gift giver, so it's one of the only things that he, like, a gift that he got me that was very intentional. It was like specifically for me, you know, and it was for Valentine's Day. So it was really cute. And, you know, we weren't super close at the time either. But anyways, so yeah, his name is Froggy Leapers. God, I'm just really putting myself out there right now. And I just have never gotten rid of him. Like, I don't even think it was like really on purpose. It's just like he's still around. And it's like when I get super depressed or super anxious, like having something to hold like that, and like not having to, like, even if you have a partner or, you know, like whatever, they're not always around when you're in that state. You know what I mean? Like like I said, I've had that frog since I was 15. I'm 27. So there's been plenty of times that I had a partner and had anxiety and the partner wasn't around. You know what I'm saying? So it's just, if you don't like that tip, you can leave it out. But I'm telling you, if it resonates with you, and you're like, oh, this is kind of weird, but you can kind of feel in your spirit that like, oh man, maybe I am supposed to get a stuffed animal, then like freaking do it. They have these freaking things called squishmallows now, and they're just like, they're animals, but they're so effing soft and squishy and amazing. So I don't know, I might have to get one of those too. But yeah. Depression and anxiety are no joke, man. Give yourself grace. If you, like I said, if you don't feel like you can do most of these tips on a certain day, that's okay. But I feel like and honestly, you probably knew a lot of these already, but I feel like just the knowledge of like having it or like being reminded of it and like having all these tips in one place, I just feel like it's helpful. It's helpful for me even. Like I can see myself coming back to this podcast when I'm going through it. You know what I mean? Yeah, so if you are feeling like you're in the thick of it right now, just gonna pray over you. Just sending you like gold dust all around you, protection. And I just pray that whatever needs to flow can just flow out of you and be released. It doesn't have to live inside of you anymore. You don't always have to be light. You don't always have to be dark. You are the beautiful mixture of the two. I pray you do feel lighter in this moment, or at least warmer, maybe a little bit more comforted. Maybe a little sneaky smile came on your face at some point, and maybe it didn't even reach your face on the outside, but your little heart got a smile. That happens to me a lot of times when I'm depressed and I'm watching something funny. I'm like too depressed to laugh out loud, but I'm getting some chuckles on the inside. So if that's you, I feel you. Anyways, blessings, hope, peace, forgiveness, rest, joy, and again, hope. And so it is. Have a beautiful day. Oh, and if you like this podcast, you can rate, review, subscribe, and share with a friend. Much love to you.